but they also need help because they're taking all the signatures from the referendum and trying to make a database so they'll be able to send cards out to people and get them more involved. So if anybody wants to help with that, I mean, it's happening. And for you, I would like to see if you could put together some training sessions that we could have that could be spread around, so going over just, you know, these videos that you've got and just, you know, little tiny bits so we can digest it.
There is a lot more of information, guys. This is just like, if you would, like the skeleton, but there's a lot of meat that needs to be put on what I just presented. I mean, we're talking about what is your status, who really are you, okay?
So I've got a question about... What, you want trade?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, so I've got a question about indemnification. Because if you're saying that we can go after an official individually, aren't they all protected by the state's indemnification, except if you go after them with the Citizen Bill of Rights, Section 4A?
Okay, so here's the answer.
Okay.
There's a difference between an official title and the individual. That's why I was talking about we got to know our standing, who we really are. Okay. I can stand before you as a subject, in all caps name, who's just on a piece of paper. Okay. But then I can stand before you as a state citizen, all rights reserved, but I am the living. You're hearing from the living because the corporate person is on paper. Okay, and these are some of the things we need to start to learn. That's why I said we need to find out who our true identity is, because, you know, if you are representative of your estate, the all caps name, that is a artificial person. It's a paper. Okay, there's a difference between me being the living and the paper. Okay, so when we do these things, we identify ourselves, and by the way, to identify yourself on paper, it's not an all caps name. You identify yourself by your first name, the dot, your middle name,
colon.
It's not colon, excuse me. It's your first name dash, your middle name, colon, then your last name. That's who you really are. Now you're representing the real man and the woman. Because remember, we're talking about government. There is the government of the people, that's New Mexico. And then there's the corporate government called the state of New Mexico, which is a piece of paper. It's a fiction. It's just like anything you write up with articles and whatever. That's what that is. Okay. So once we start learning our true definition and who we really are and how we operate, if you happen to go back and you have a checkbook on that signature line, get a magnifying glass and look at it real close. That signature line actually says authorized representative, because you're an authorized representative of that estate, and that's the reason why they always ask you to sign a contract. Now, the word registration, folks, means that you're giving authority for somebody else to have your estate, okay? That's why registration was not used in the state till rather recently when they passed and they started putting it in the county. You had to actually be an elector, okay? And there's an actual qualification to be an elector to actually vote. Our constitutional officers. And there's a difference between constitutional offices and corporate offices. So in a case, if you want to identify yourself, it's always the man, that's the living beneficiary, doing business as your all caps name, okay? Now you're showing not just yourself but the world that you're starting to understand who you are and what that corporate entity is and where you're standing. So it's a little bit confusing at first because it takes a while to start grasping this idea, okay? Because we're not used to this, we're not taught this.
And
okay?
a for instance is, if you were to take your driver's license, look on your driver's license, your name is in all capital letters, which means they are addressing you as not a whole person, as a corporate entity. They do it with your mortgage. They do it with your all of your bills. You see capital letters, you are a corporate entity.
you are representing the corporate. Yes? Say it again.
Oh, I've heard people say that the birth certificate is a new invention. It used to be just baptismal certificates, and now they're doing the birth certificate, which does the same thing, saying you are a corporate.
It goes back, way back, because if you go back to the Catholic Church and you go back to registering on the baptismal, it all goes way back, and it just comes forward, and it's just word trickery is really an interesting thing, because you can put a different face as the years go by, but it still has the same meaning no matter what you call it. The biggest example I can say in my day about definition of word change, I grew up, and in the 70s, see, prior to that, I always knew what the word gay meant, and that just meant happy. That's it, no more, no less. No more, no less. Okay? But in the 70s, I started seeing these folks going out there in these parades and saying that they were happy and they were gay. Okay? That was new to me. It was like, what are they talking about? That's not the definition I know of. But what I'm saying is, folks, we need to recognize that words and time has changed definitions. And so we need to go back. The precedent is always to go back to the original meaning. Then we can really start to figure out what we're doing. Like, for example, if you look at the word patriot, you look at the dictionary now, and you go back to the 1828 dictionary, that's the first Webster's dictionary, and the reason why I called it that was because that was the American English dictionary, because what they did was, now we have a new country, now we have our new language, because they have been speaking English, right? British English, right? So we had to come out with our own language as Americans. So that is the very first American language dictionary. And the definition is different if you look at patriot and other things. It's very mind-boggling and surprising. But these are the things we need to start to understand. And that's the reason why I say if we lose focus of our past, we lose the compass to our future. Because we don't know what the heck we're going to get. Okay? But history shows that. So this is the reason why it's important to go back to history. That's all.
Yes, the words in 1828 are for common law,
Common language.
Common
the
language.
People's language.
Sir.
I'm loud enough, probably. Before patriots, the redefinition of, like, if we were all called patriots and wanted to defend our borders, we want to defend our borders, care for one another. Sorry about that. And basically care enough to say, nope, redefine the rules, let's support our Constitution. And the training that this lady was talking about is we need a forum to build the elected officials' ability to understand the patriotism type.
Yes.
Because the red flag laws, I'll use an example just to bring up a forum, is when I heard the mandate, and I almost died of the vaccine shot, I heard the mandate of the governor saying that we have to not just have the vaccine for COVID patients or whatever. I was both, and I almost died of that. We had a situation with the gun laws. Can you hear me?
There you
gun
go.
laws.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. The gun laws that, I'll hear myself now, that are representing the fact that she made a mandate, our governor, and I get to talk to our government official from Santa Fe on energy all the time, and there's no dialogue on the fact that basically it was unconstitutional for the red flag laws.
Yeah.
Why did we not build a case with her personally as not just an individual but official of the state to build on that not only was it unconstitutional, but you'll be tried from here on?
Yeah.
That's my own.
Yeah, well, there is no limit, because if it's violation, there's a violation. But you know, there's a lot of other things we can talk about. So if you really want to know a lot more of what I'm talking about, I actually do a meeting and session every first and third Saturday over at Wash by the Word, which is on Carlisle. It's 4228 Carlisle Northeast, and I'm always there. Unless something really happens, but usually I'm always there on the first and third Saturday from noon to 2. And what I do is I'm going to be honest with you guys, the first things I do, I have a prayer group of prayer intercessors, and we pray because we want the Spirit of the Lord to guide us. Because if you look at Scripture, it's the Spirit of the Lord that gives us liberty. Okay? You know, the founders talked about that. A lot of things come in and play with this, but this is one of the things I do. So if you are interested, that's when I do that. And so you're welcome to call me if you want my number or an email, and I'll send you something back. I'll be glad to do that. Just let me know. Is there any other questions?
So
Comments?
I want to add to something you were
Yes.
saying. One thing I have talked about before is how what they do is, in order to infringe upon your natural rights, they change the meanings of the words. And if you guys were here for my talk on the Second Amendment, I talked about that quite about in depth, in which they changed the meaning of what a militia was when the Constitution was written. So that's how they get around this stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of younger people that probably were not taught history or government or the Constitution when they were going to school, they don't know any better. So they believe that, oh, well, that's what a militia is. It's a government-ran military.
Right, National Guard.
Or well-regulated. Oh, well, that means that the government tells you what kind of gun you can have, or tells you where you can carry that gun, or whether you have to have a government-issued permit to carry that gun. And one thing that's going on around a lot right now, and it really, really drives me crazy, is how they've got everybody calling our government a democracy. And I'm even hearing so-called conservative TV hosts and radio hosts calling our government a democracy, and just like you saw in that video that Cip showed, we're not a democracy, we're a republic, or a representative republic, you might say, because we do have elements of democracy in our election system, but our government is a republic. And so that's how they do it, and they got everybody calling our country a democracy right now. It drives me crazy.
So, question? Comments?
Yeah, more of a comment. So there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about. We have to remember, most people have no idea what they're talking about. We're gonna be very careful that we don't get weird. Okay, like I'm being serious. You start talking about being a person and all that. If you want to have that conversation, explain to them that a corporation is referred to as a person, and then refer them back to him. Unless you really know what you're talking about. Be very careful when you're talking to people so you don't get weird. Ask questions, right? So say, what do you think about that? And then they'll tell you something and say, oh, tell me about that. Okay, tell me about that. They will expose their ignorance to themselves, and then they will start to like peel the onion of the lies that are being revealed.
Yeah.
And they will see it for themselves. If you start talking, they're gonna shut down.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna go, this person's weird, or this person's a conspiracy theorist. And so say less and ask them to explain something, because you can't look objectively at what's going on right now without seeing how full of, you know what, like all these people are. And like you said, even the people on the conservative side, oh, they're using the wrong words, they're using this. Well, okay, well that's if we actually believe that they're on different sides. Okay? It's we the people, and then we understand that there are people that are put in positions to be an advocate and a voice for the entity. And what you're saying is true, but we have to be aware that if we start saying it without having the ability to articulate it, it gets weird real fast.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so I usually don't speak about it, but I just felt moved to do
No,
it.
this is awesome.
So I did.
This is a good setting though. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a
we're
good
all
setting
here
for it.
seeking knowledge.
Yeah.
I like what you're saying though, and
It is.
that's the best way to deal with someone
Yeah.
that is ignorant,
Yeah.
is to ask them questions and get them to talk.
Right.
And
Yeah.
usually you can, when you start asking them questions and they can't, like, oh, you know, Trump's a racist, you know, okay, well, can you give me
Why?
some examples of
Mhm.
that? Can you tell me why you think that?
Right.
Those sort of things.
Yeah. And that is very important. Anybody else? Comments, thoughts? Yes.
Just a comment for anybody that wants to know more about the bills.
The 6 bad bills that you referenced and read off. You can get the detail of that in English and Spanish on my website, nmbadbills.com. It's loaded to the gills with all of that. And so And to help you out, the new site going up is flipnewmexico.com, which is going to be a forum for all 41 candidates and their ability to reach out to the people, a permanent website that lets people go to one place, because otherwise it's going to be a half article in a newspaper or nothing on the news. So Flip New Mexico is dedicated to doing exactly what you're talking about.
FlipNewMexico.com?
Flip NM.
Okay.
Yeah, Flip NM. It's still under construction, but in the next 3 or 4 days, it'll be in pretty good shape.
Good. So there we are, helping each other out. Any other ones, comments, thoughts, questions? Okay, thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you, Cipriano.
Feedback.
Thank you, Cipriano. That's a lot of really good information. You know, we host various topics, and I actually ran into somebody the other day and says, you should have something on the border and on election integrity. And I said, hey, guess what? We have. And I think this is really, really important for people who were tired of politics. This is a different way to approach it. So thank you so much for coming, making it hopefully somewhat understandable for the people. And if you are interested, just let me know and we'll make sure to forward you on the information. I missed a couple of things that I was supposed to announce earlier. So 3 things. We are able to take donations as a ward. And so if you are inclined, we have some amazing people that just, out of their own funds, bring us food and wine. So if you want, we have a little cut back there. You're welcome to do donations. Or if you'd like to write a check, the check would go to RPBC. It'll be allocated for our ward, and we are using it for several things. And one of those is signs. Daphne, do you mind holding up that sign over there for me? So we have 4 of these signs that we would like to get out throughout our district about 4 days prior to each of our events. And we're looking for locations. And Gerald, if you can stand up, he has placed one at his home, so thank you very much. And that's how we got our new person who snuck in and snuck out. But at least we have a new person that's come in. And that's all done through donations. And so again, we're looking for anybody else who'd like to place a sign on their property. We're looking for maybe something on another area on 14, maybe to Harris, and then maybe Frost. And last, but most importantly, my apologies to Ant and Stephanie, they have an announcement about their offices, and they need help with volunteers, so either one of you, come up here, please. And then I thank you, everybody, for coming out. We'll close after you're done.
Just real brief, just want to let you all know that Stephanie and I have gotten together, got a contract, and we are opening up an office right across the street, basically at the Triangle. It's on the south side of the building. It's B7, Suite B7. It's down from Trader, whatever it's called. Trail Rider, the Trail Rider Pizza. It's at the very south side. We are in the process of getting it set up and getting some internet exposure and everything. I just had security come in today, so we have security cameras all the way around. We have an alarm system set up. If someone breaks the glass, we'll be instantly notified, and they'll contact either myself or Stephanie. So we're in the process of setting up this office. It's going to be for 4 months. We're going to have the official opening August 10th. We're going to try to get as large of the community as possible to show up. It's going to be on a Saturday from 4 to 6. We want everyone to show up. We'll have some food and music, food, and kind of be fun. It's going to be a fun opening, grand opening. But we want the people in this district to understand that conservatives are here, and we want to keep it that way. And we're going to make sure that the Democrats understand that this place is going to stay red for as long as we're here. And so we want everybody to show up. And that's really it. So yeah, in terms of how you're going to help us, so obviously money's the easy part. The real hard part is volunteers to staff the office. We're going to have things stuffing envelopes. We're going to be walking, and we're looking for people who want to be registration agents. And so our goal here is to register as many as possible, especially independents, the DTS, and get them to come over to our side. I think they're just as unhappy as what's going on nationally as well as what's going on statewide. We can get the DTSs registered in this district. It's going to turn this place really red, and that's going to be important for not only for this election, but for all future elections as well. So it's important that we do that.
And if anybody has an idea for phone companies or internet, please let me know, because we can't find anybody to do a 4-month contract unless they want a tremendous amount of money. Oh, and if anybody wants to hang out at the office, it's going to be the funnest thing you've ever done in your life. Aunt will be doing stand-up comedy, and I will be complaining a lot. Thank you.
They won't do it because
Okay.
it's in Berkeley County.
We have one more thing that, again, I forgot. So,
They do, but they won't let me do it.
Daphne, come on up here. So you all are very aware that the RNC convention just ended, and we actually have somebody from our district that attended. I don't know if anybody know the Neals. Jane, I forget her husband. Dan. Is that me?
No, that's right.
Anyways, I've heard nothing but amazing stories, but Daphne attended, so I'm going to let her share a little bit about what the convention was like, and then we will.
So it was the most amazing thing I think I've ever done in my life. And I was blessed that my husband had a friend who lived in Milwaukee, and she gave us her house. So Debbie Reynolds and I stayed in this house while the other people were having to bus back and forth from Madison an hour and a half. And they'd get there and they looked like they were pretty tired, and we were really fresh. But the thing that struck me the most is I was scared a little bit, after what happened. And we get there, and I think most of the police forces and sheriff's departments in the country were there. There were so many that I started taking pictures of them, and I posted them on our website, and I sent them out for MailChimp as well. And there was a contest I had, who was the police officer who gave me the worst time. And somebody has figured it out, but he was already going to get a gift anyway. So it's still open. So, if you've got our emails, try to figure out who that policeman was. And they had all these police guys on their bicycles and motorcycles. I mean, it was amazing. And when we first got there, they gave us these little clear plastic bags. They took everything out. And after a while, they kind of sort of trusted us. But talking to the other representatives from the other states, and they put New Mexico, if you're like, where was New Mexico? So if you were looking at the television broadcast and you were looking at the stage, they had us so far back to the left. And I thought that makes a lot of sense because, we were right there with Delaware and Connecticut, and we were having to sort of fight for our seats because people would, well, anyhow, they finally put little tags, so New Mexico had these seats. And Debbie, how many of you guys know Debbie Reynolds? Okay, so Debbie Reynolds, again, she and I were together, and she has her foot in a flexible cast. So it was kind of tough on her to walk around. So I managed to get a chair for her. I couldn't get a chair like this, but I stole a chair, one of those elevator chairs, which is a little taller. So Debbie said she was really glad she didn't bring any dresses because her leg was up on it the whole time. And that was the most photographed foot, I think, in the whole convention. These Japanese guys would come over and take a picture of her foot. And sadly, I didn't take another big suitcase because every day we'd get these different Trump signs. And we left them, and we come back the next day, and they were just gone. So I started collecting them, and I have maybe, 6 that I managed to squash down into my suitcase to bring home. And I did the exchange with people of their state pens. And it was funny because I got one from Minneapolis. It's up here somewhere. And then I got another one. The lady came over and she says, this is the Minneapolis flag we have that is like almost, I guess she said it's like Somali or something like that. So that's this pen. And I haven't really taken a chance to look at it, but and the people who came up and gave their talks, especially the people with the 13 soldiers that were killed in Afghanistan. I'm telling you, it's almost hard for me to even talk about it and their story. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but if you go back and you watch, and of course the people that were talking about their children that they lost to drugs and fentanyl, and I mean, it was,